Hello everybody, welcome back to Wolfeei Extras. Today we're going to be looking at a comment again about MCC. Again. Someone here, Gabriel, suggested for me to make my own best or funniest MCC remix games. Now, this is a really good idea, and I will do it in the future because it requires a bit of effort, and I did not prepare. However, I had another idea, just on the spot. I'll be telling you guys my advice on how to do well at every single MCC game, because in the past I was at some point a tester about a year and a half ago at this point, and I was pretty good, and I would still call myself a pretty high tier Minecraft event player, even though I don't care as much anymore. I still know like how to play the games. So I'm gonna share my advice. I'm gonna zoom this in a little bit. There you go. Share my advice on the games. I'm currently on the MCC wiki, which has all the current games. And I'll just say what I think would probably help. Obviously, if you're an MCC player watching this, feel free to take my advice. I do not require any credit. Just if you perform well, good for you. All right, let's get started. Ace Race. Now, this is going to be the first bit of advice where I'm automatically going to sound very straightforward and obvious. You have to get comfortable with Minecraft movement to be able to perform well in Ace Race. Now, how do you get comfortable with Minecraft movement? Honestly, you just have to be able to move around like smoothly in Minecraft without having to think about it that much, right? So not bumping into blocks while like running. So like knowing the timing of when to jump when you're like sprint jumping in like blocks that go upwards. Another really good trick that helped me get really good at movement games was Hypixel Housing. Hypixel Housing, for those of you who are not aware, it's just a little like part. Usually people make a parkour, which is like very small and simple levels that like go up in difficulty, except there's like 500 levels in a row, and like they're like 3 jumps each. They're like really small, and I think that is a fantastic way of getting better at movement. It worked for me. I was already pretty good at Minecraft in general, but that helped me get really good. It also helps for parkour, and because it is parkour, it helps for parkour a lot, but it also helps for games like Ace Race, which have little like jumps every now and then where you have to like jump over a 3-block gap, so you have to do a 3-block jump or something like that. So yeah, for Ace Race, I would suggest Hypixel Housing as a way of practicing or getting used to movement, because it really helps. It's actually really helpful. You don't even have to like dedicate yourself to it. How I used to do it is I used to just watch a YouTube video on my second monitor and play Hypixel Housing during it. You just kind of look over every now and then to pay attention to the video, pay attention to the screen. It worked fine. I think it's a really good strategy, and I advise everyone to use it. Battle Box, very simple. PvP, you have to learn how to PvP. PvP, I think, in 1.9 is relatively simple. However, only simple if you're used to other games that are somewhat similar in combat. I think 1.8 is easier to understand because obviously there's other games where you just have to spam click, but I also think a lot of other games have timed PvP where there's cooldowns. So yeah, obviously if you're like, if you don't play video games, which I think in MCC there's not really anyone. If there is, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's many people who don't play video games in general. I think for the majority of people, once you get told what to do, it should be relatively easy to understand how to PvP. Someone who I think did really well at this in another event called Block Wars was Sleepy, who is an Overwatch player. He used to be a 1.8 PvPer, who during the event we told him how to PvP, and he did really well. So yeah, I think as long as you're told how to PvP, which I can go in depth on that in another video if you want me to. I'm not like a really good PvP player compared to like the other top players, but I know the fundamentals, and I think as long as you understand the basics of PvP, which is not that difficult, just requires a bit of getting used to, bit of practice, and you'll be able to PvP relatively well. You're not going to be the top frag on a team instantly, but it'll help you get up there. It'll help you not get 0 kills, or maybe just even be able to hold up against another better player. Build Mart. I mean, Build Mart, I wasn't really good at Build Mart, but I wasn't really bad at Build Mart. I was just kind of in the middle. This is all about team communication, and it depends on what strategy you want to use, either being able to remember what blocks you need or just writing it down really quickly. Yeah, it's just tactical, right? You have to think about, like, all right, like, for example, what you can do is you can learn the map for Build Mart, because they have like little islands with resources everywhere. What you could do is you could say, all right, someone goes north, someone goes east, south, west. That's your 4 teammates. So yeah, that's your 4 directions, and you all get blocks from the areas. This is very dependent on the team. This is not really anything that I think you can do solo. I haven't really watched Green. If you want to learn how he does it, watch Green play Build Mart. He's really good at it. So yeah, that's how you would approach that. Not really anything I can help you with, because I'm not too certain about how Green does it, and he's really good. Grid runners. Grid runners, I think, comes down to 2 things: Minecraft knowledge and teamwork. Grid runners often uses some either niche mechanics, or it uses Minecraft knowledge that not a lot of people will know. For example, how scaffolding works, or how to craft something, for example. So that just comes down to knowing Minecraft. The best way to learn Minecraft is to play survival. If you're a streamer, you can play hardcore Minecraft on stream. It's a pretty relevant topic on Twitch, I think. So could be worth to just learn how things work. And teamwork, similar to Build Mart, obviously depends on the team. I think how you would approach teamwork in an event like MCC is to be calm for the most part, right? You're calm unless your team doesn't listen. If your team doesn't listen, you can yell at them. Or at least if I don't know, like, in what circumstance that would be, because I often get listened to for whatever reason. But yeah, you just have to be calm and have to, like, talk to your teammates. Don't be like, can someone do this? Because if you say, right, can someone make a crafting table? You have now told 3 people that one of you 3 should make a crafting table. What is that going to lead to? Them either talking about who should make the crafting table, or multiple people making a crafting table. That's a waste of time and a waste of resources. Tell one specific person that you see not being occupied to do something. That'll help a lot, because you're actually telling one specific person what to do, and it's not too demanding, and you have 2 more teammates to put on a spot where they can also be useful. So that's how I would recommend approaching teamwork, which will help for Build Mart, will help for grid runners. Same applies to Build Mart. If you say someone get 10 cobblestone, you have the same situation. Either multiple people will get the cobblestone, or people will discuss who should get the cobblestone, which is a waste of time. Next up, hole in the wall. Hole in the wall is a similar situation where you have to learn movement and get comfortable with movement. However, it's different because it's a jump boost. Now, jump boost movement is a lot different from regular movement, because you have jump boost, and the gravity applies differently, the timing is different, and it's something that you'll have to get used to. Luckily, there's 2 ways to practice hole in the wall now. There's the practice server if you're an MCC participant, and there's MCC Island, which has hole in the wall. Same applies to BattleBox, by the way. BattleBox also has the practice server and MCC Island that you can play on. Yeah, for hole in the wall, you have to get used to jump boost. How do you do this? You either set up your own parkour where you can use jump boost. If you're able to get to a point where you can quickly move between blocks, this can be due to learning how the map works or being comfortable with your mechanics. That'll help. Because all you need to do for hole in the wall, which it's still a challenge because if you start from nothing, it's quite a bit to get to being good at hole in the wall. You have to get comfortable with moving, preferably sprinting at most times, and just being able to know where you are and how you're going to move when you do a certain movement. If you hold forward and jump and it go a bit to the left, you need to know where that roughly goes towards. You can also apply F5 mode. I also recommend practicing with using F5 mode. I, for one, used to play in F5 for fun because I really enjoyed it, and it happened to be really useful for some of the games in MCC. So that is hole in the wall. Meltdown comes down to bow skills and teamwork as well, and also map knowledge. This is a game that you can you're going to have an easier time with if you learn how to play shooter games like Valorant. Even Overwatch can help with this, even though it's a bit different. CSGO, those types of games, right? Being able to peek corners, being able to know that, like, if you're peeking, what does it look like from the other person's perspective? For example, if you slowly peek while they're holding the angle, you're going to lose the duel because they'll be able to see you before you see them. So what would you have to do? Jump in and peek, or bait their peek. You jump in and out, something like that. What you can also do, as is the case with all of these games, watch one of the MCC players who is really good at it. I'm pretty sure for Meltdown, Foolish is really good at it, if I recall correctly. I feel like Puns would be pretty good at it too. So yeah, that's Meltdown. Comes down to bow skills. How do you practice bow skills? Set up, like, what you could do, you can literally just go to a super flat world and set it to nighttime, let the mob spawn, grab a bow, go in creative mode, and try to just shoot random things from a far distance. Just practice your aim. And obviously you have to get used to how bows work in Minecraft, because arrows have gravity and they go downwards. Parkour tag, same applies to Ace Race. If you play Hypixel Housing, you will improve at this incredibly quickly. It is very simple. Obviously, teamwork also applies here, but it's the same case where you just have to communicate with your team. Be clear. Don't be like, oh, there's a guy behind you. You should probably say, oh, or well, I guess that's not a great example because there's only one person. If you could give an approximate distance of how far someone is, they can play around it. For example, if the opponent is like, let's say like 8 blocks behind them, which is relatively close, they don't have that much room to make like a juke play where they throw someone off and try to jump around or over them or whatever, right? However, if someone's 12 blocks away or 15 blocks away or on the opposite side of the map, that gives a lot of intel and gives the remaining runner a lot of room to work with. They can go right, they can go left, they can go up, down, backwards, forwards. They can do a lot. So it's important to communicate and know how to, parkour. Parkour Warrior, same situation. You have to learn how to parkour. Parkour Warrior has a bit more challenging parkour jumps compared to Parkour Tag and even Ace Race. However, in Hypixel Housing, you will also learn a couple of these. The one thing that is different, that will possibly be something that you'll have to learn separately, is the fact that Hypixel Housing is limited to 1.8 Minecraft. So anything that was added in 1.9 or later will not be there. For example, in the image, there's chains. Chains do not exist in Hypixel Housing because that wasn't a thing. So you'll have to get used to how those work. Or bells. I don't know if they'll have bell parkour in Parkour Warrior, but it's also something that you would have to just learn separately. Rocket Spleef Rush. This is a bit of a niche game. You have to learn how to use an elytra. If you understand how to use an elytra, understanding Rocket Spleef Rush will come with it, basically. There's 2 mechanics and you have to combine them. And in a combination of both is a little weird, because you have to learn how to use an elytra elytra hopping is included there, would be really helpful. Not necessary, but it's really helpful. And rocket jumping, or TNT jumping. They're roughly the same. TNT jumping, I personally learned from playing Skywars on Hypixel. That is where that was like a troll or like a funny idea or just a cool little flex that you could do. It's very easy to set up in a single player world to get used to it. There's also the practice server that you can use. So yeah, Rocket Spleef Rush, very niche. You have to learn elytra hopping, and TNT jumping. Rocket jumping is roughly the same. You have to jump before the explosion hits the floor, because then you gain momentum upwards, which gives you more boost upwards. So yeah, that is basically all I can say about it. Yet again, I recommend watching other people's POV for this. Sands of Time. This one is a little tricky. This is very team dependent, and you have to play tactically because there's roles in this that you have to understand, and you have to figure out how much utility you gain from these roles. For example, the Sandkeeper is the main role that is applied to people. Sandkeepers are often kind of seen as not that useful or not that important. I know that they are extremely important, and I know a lot of people realize that they're extremely important, but often the worst player on a team, in quotations, or the lowest scoring player, or whoever has the least coins, is often put in that position, which I think isn't a bad idea, but I think putting one of your mid players on there is probably better. I had an idea to put myself as a Sandkeeper if I were to play, which obviously would be a very odd move, but often what you will see is that the Sandkeeper doesn't complete the room before they exit the dungeon, which I think is a missed opportunity. I think it's also very safe. I know there's mobs that spawn from the levers, but I think for the most part it is relatively safe to gain those coins as compared to some of the other routes that you can take, because there's harder puzzles in some of the rooms, and more like that. However, obviously, your Sandkeeper room, your main room, is not going to yield as many coins as a vault. So you'll have to strike a balance between what is and what isn't useful for your team, and what is and isn't necessary. If you want to play for safe coins, I would recommend getting one or maybe even two Sandkeepers for a shorter period of time, just to guarantee that you get everything that is basically given to you for almost free. That is my recommendation. However, I haven't played Sands of Time in a year and a half, so I could be wrong. But that's how I experience it. That's how I would approach it. Sky Battle. I would recommend playing MCC Island Sky Battle. That is my recommendation, and I cannot really give much more to that. What you'll have to learn is how to get comfortable with placing blocks. It's something that is a bit tricky, especially if you're not familiar with Minecraft. It is going to be tough to understand or to get really quick at using blocks. If you have a bit of if you have a bit of an understanding of Minecraft, I think it's not too difficult to understand. Sky Battle has situational PvP, which means that as compared to BattleBox, often the arena is more flat, a bit more straightforward, which often results in people who are good at duels PvP to be able to do a bit better. Obviously, there's utility in BattleBox, like a potion or a whatever, right? There's kits. But for the most part, that is relatively close to duels in comparison to the other PvP games. Whereas Sky Battle, obviously, is similar to Skywars. You are often put in a situation where your floor that you're using with, the surface that you're PvPing on, is a bit inconsistent. It is not flat. It's either elevated in the sky or something like that. So you have to learn how to get comfortable with that. MCC Island Sky Battle, I think, is a great way to learn. However, it's also a situation where I think you shouldn't go there unprepared, because then you're going to get your butt kicked, probably, and it's going to result in you not learning much, because you're just going to jump in the deep end and you're not going to really learn much from that. Whereas if you prepare, if you understand what to expect and how things work and why things go wrong, or like why am I dying here? Why did this happen? Why did that happen? You should understand how things work before you jump into MCC Island, I think. Especially in Sky Battle because of it being highly competitive. Now, if you have a person to play with, for example, another MCC player, if you're on a team, one of your teammates, that'll help a lot. They can help guide you, and I hope they do. Survival games is a little tough. It is one of, if not the most RNG-based game in MCC, I would say, because of it being loot chest-based, which I don't really know how they fairly distribute the loot inside of chests, but more often than not, you'll see that one team ends up getting really lucky and another team ends up getting really unlucky, where one team will have almost full iron armor and another team will have like gold or chainmail and not much else. It's a game where you're gonna require some really good Minecraft skill. I think a game mode that currently isn't very popular but used to be pretty popular, that helped a lot of the current players get good, is probably UHC, Ultra Hardcore. I think being good at UHC, which means being good at PvP while using a lot of utility for the most part, helps a lot. And it's also about surviving. You have to realize that if you die, you're out, and there's no way of getting respawned. So it is equally as important for you to survive as it is to get a kill. Obviously, that is not entirely accurate because of how points are distributed, but surviving is really important, and you cannot go balls deep into a fight and expect that to go totally fine. You have to play around the circumstances, and you have to be smart about it. There's not really much that you can really do to avoid having to play safe. Even the best players don't go in just like blind. They don't go in blind into a fight. They're prepared. And if you know what your utility is, you also know how to play around certain situations. For example, if you have a cobweb, you can use that aggressively to get a player stuck and eliminate them, or you can use it defensively, where if you're getting chased, you can place it on the ground and get someone stuck to run away from them. Those are some examples. Same applies to lava buckets and whatnot. You have to be able to learn how to quickly swap between hotbar slots. If you use a scroll wheel, you're in a disadvantage most of the time. Learn how to use hotkeys. It'll help a lot in survival games. And then last but not least, to get to their side, similar to Sky Battle, for the most part, you'll have to learn how to use blocks. There's also maps in To Get to Their Side that do not require blocks. And I think those sometimes are a bit niche. For example, the honey one, you have to learn how to, you have to understand how honey works. That you cannot jump on the honey blocks, but you can jump on the honey like combs or whatever they're called. So yeah, you have to play tactically. You can then tell when to punch someone, which is another thing. Punching in this game is important. You can use it defensively or offensively. More often than not, it is used offensively to either annoy someone or to get them out of your way, or to try to catch up to them in points within that specific round if a team is ahead of you. Although I haven't really seen that being used that often, but I feel like that could be really useful. So yeah, to your other side, learn movement, learn block placing, but if you're learning everything for MCC, you'll pick up on that as well. So that is my advice. I've talked for 24 minutes, basically continuously. So let me know what you think. Obviously, I am one guy. I have a lot of experience with Minecraft events, but just because I have a lot of experience doesn't mean that everything I say and think is true. So you have to understand that I could be wrong about certain things, but I'm pretty confident that for the most part, a lot of things that I've said are at least close to being true. So that is it for this video. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for getting this far. Let me know what you think about my tactics and advice for MCC. A lot of this applies to other events as well, however, not directly. So without experience in other events, you are likely to not do as well as you do in MCC, or it all just depends on how good you are at Minecraft. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later. Goodbye!